Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you like and subscribe. Today, we are talking about the legendary British Bulldog. What an amazing athlete and wrestler throughout his career. Really got his big start in Stampede Wrestling, owned by Bret Hart's dad, Stu Hart. And that was really one of the reasons why Vince McMahon bought that particular territory back in the day, because they had so much talent. They had the British Bulldog, they had Bad News Brown, they had the Dynamite Kid, they had Bret Hart, just to name a few. And they would all eventually come to the World Wrestling Federation. Of course, the British Bulldog would start out as a tag team wrestler with the Dynamite Kid, and they were an incredible tag team. They feuded with the who's who of tag team wrestlers, were multi-time tag team champions. You know, they were in the first SummerSlam, they were at WrestleManias, they were at Survivor Series. Unfortunately, Dynamite Kid by the late 80s was not the Dynamite Kid that he used to be. So they finally broke apart, and it caused friction between the two because Davey Boy Smith literally took the British Bulldog and everything that went with the tag team with him. So Dynamite Kid really couldn't use any of that stuff. Of course, the British Bulldog would kind of jump between WWE and WCW in the early 90s. He really never got his big WrestleMania moment. I mean, the only aside from his tag team matches, his only big WrestleMania moment was WrestleMania 7 versus the Warlord. Can we really talk about that being a moment? I don't think so. Of course, in WCW, he would feud with the likes of Vader and Sid Vicious and team up with Sting, but never really compete for any championships or hold any championships. I mean, he had opportunities, but for some reason, WCW never really pulled the trigger on him. And a fun little fact, had the timing worked out right, he would have become the Intercontinental Champion at SummerSlam 1990 instead of the Texas Tornado. But eventually, he would become the Intercontinental Champion at one of the greatest SummerSlams of all time, 1992 at Wembley Stadium, where he and Bret Hart sold out Wembley Stadium in an incredible Intercontinental Championship match. I would encourage you to go back and watch that amazing match. It is a clinic. And of course, that run didn't last as long as you would think it would. And he would kind of be gone for a little bit and then come back in 94, 95 ish, and team with Lex Luger for a minute, which I mean, it was okay, but he really found his stride again when he started teaming with Owen Hart and becoming one half of the tag team champions, and of course, later on becoming the first ever European champion, which was a very underrated belt. I really liked that belt. And of course, forming the iconic Hart Foundation with Bret Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Owen Hart, the British Bulldog, and of course, Brian Pillman. And they had an incredible 8-man at Spring Stampede, which was amazing. And he had incredible feuds with Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, um, just to name a few. Overall, he had a great career. And of course, after the Montreal Screwjob, he went to WCW, but again, WCW didn't have anything for him. Then he would eventually come back to the WWE, and I mean, he was essentially a muscle guy for the Mean Street Posse, and he really couldn't do the things that he used to do because I mean, he was getting up in age, and wrestling takes a toll on your body. But I mean, in his prime, he was amazing and he could go. I mean, he went bell to bell at the Royal Rumble 1995. Him and Shawn Michaels entered 1 and 2, and they went bell to bell. That tells you the confidence that the World Wrestling Federation had in those two wrestlers to go bell to bell. And he, like I said, he had legendary feuds with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, just to name a few. And he had a legendary career. I do wish he would have been an Intercontinental Champion more than once, but he had a great run and he will always be remembered for what he did in the business. And we thank you for what you've done.